shirt.
Thank you.
All right. Anthony, how you doing today, boss?
Good, man.
Good. So I know you've been training a lot of different gyms this time around the season. Do you feel you would have preferred to do that earlier in your career, and how has it helped you?
No, you know what? I think I've trained a lot of different gyms, but I have the same team that's coming with me. I flew in my coaches. Duke Rivers is still with me. Jorge Capetillo, Diego Marias for my jiu-jitsu. More moving the gyms for training partners. And yeah, I think right now Vegas is just got so much talent out there, man. Cowboy Cerrone, Clay Guida, Yair Rodriguez, you name it, they're out there. Kamzat was there too as well. I mean, that dude's a monster. So it's being able to train with those guys, and yeah, obviously it's definitely a plus. But I don't think back then, early in my career, that wasn't an option. There was no UFC PI. There was no hub of where all the fighters would go.
Yeah. And how are you able to still use a UFC PI when not being signed to the UFC?
But I have Showtime, bro.
Okay. And what last one for me? Seeing your brother win that championship this past year, how much did that motivate you to get your own belt this year, win another
I
belt?
was just talking about that to see his progress this year. I mean, he bought his first house, got engaged, won his world title, defended his world title. Like to see where he's at in his life, and I'm just proud of him. Because I remember how that felt for me, man, being right in that same spot and transitioning to becoming from a contender to a champion, and it's definitely a big jump. The crazy thing is I had the same thing happen. I had a knee surgery right after I beat Ben Henderson. I had a year off, had to coach the Ultimate Fighter. So he's kind of in the same boat I am. I've been there before, so I'm just giving him all the advice I can.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that question, but give me advice about that. One more question, sorry. Forgot it. Somebody else can go. Go ahead.
Anthony, a big thing that's changed for you is obviously you're a promoter now. So just kind of talk about what you've learned through that whole process, and has anything surprised you at all?
It's not easy. Yep, and it's definitely way more expensive than I thought. You know, like going into that first fight card, we did it in Florida, and it wasn't in my hometown, or like I didn't really have that many ties to that town. So developing the relationships, finding the venues, finding the fighters, it's a hard process, you know. And I'm looking forward to doing another one, but like more now with experience, you know. Now that I have some experience in it, I think it'd be better.
You've talked a lot about just kind of the pressure that you had last season, joining a new promotion and everything. Do you feel sort of relieved of that pressure now, or what's kind of been the biggest difference between last season and getting ready for the season?
Yeah, I think just experience, man. Like last season, I admitted to myself, I had to be my biggest critic. Like I didn't take it as serious as I should have. I took it as like a 2-month training camp for the first fight. Like I usually do my training camps 8 to 10 weeks. And that's not this format. You can't do it this way. The bulk load of your training has to be done before the first fight, because if you get hurt in that first fight or anything happens, bumps and bruises, you lose 2 or 3 weeks of training, and then boom, you're right back into another fight. So I learned a lot that last season, underestimating the level of competition. Clay Collar and Hoosh made me a better fighter for sure. They made me go back and look at the holes that I need to fix. I hired more coaches and made sure everything was about me this camp. And yeah, I think, like I said, I thank those guys for the loss, and it made me a better fighter.
Last question for me. Obviously, one thing that makes the PFL super unique is the quick turnarounds in between fights. Just kind of talk about, was that a big adjustment period for you, coming from the UFC and all that?
Oh man, it was huge. And then also we had the bubble, so it was like we had probably 3 or 4 weeks at home, and like the first 2 of the 4 weeks I was healing up my leg injuries from kicking so much. So like adjusting to like what kind of style I'm gonna fight the first fight. How much I'm gonna put my body at risk. Thinking about all that, I never thought about that before. You know, this is the hardest level, the hardest form of combat sports. Like having to go every 8 weeks 4 times, and no matter what happens, you just gotta. The commission's like, hey, is anything hurt? Nope. Like, no, nothing's hurt. Go on to the next one. So yeah, it's hard to. I mean, it was definitely a new thing for me. I never did it. So I think now I'm starting with some experience, and I know what to expect.
Thank you.
Hey Anthony, so when you a few years ago you were like one of the toughest face from Latinos in the MMA.
Mm-hmm.
We've been seeing that a lot of Mexicans are getting to the top. How you see the difference between Latin fighters evolving and having more opportunities when you began versus now?
Oh, it's huge, man. I think when I first started in the UFC, I won the belt in 2013. They had me go to Puerto Rico and do like a tryout, and I got to see the level of skill in Puerto Rico of like where guys were at. And there was definitely some talent, but they were lacking in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu area. And now to see these guys progressing, and like gyms like Ryan Gordon moved out there for a little bit with his coach. Danaher was out there, so like they're having access to better training partners. The cultivating Mexico and putting performance institutes there, and other organizations are going to scout guys out. You know, I'm in the management business too, so I get to see like the level of everybody, like where they're at, and it's progressed like crazy over the last 5 years, I would say.
So my last question: a lot of people say, like Roddy and you, the best years are in the past. A lot of fans are saying that. Even Myles says that he's not going to underestimate you, but he feels that you're not the same than a few years ago. What do you have to say about that?
I'm definitely not the same as a few years ago. I definitely progressed and I matured as a person, as a fighter. If he's basing that off of my last season, I hope so, because this season I put the work in and no corners were cut. So we'll see on Friday what kind of Anthony Pettis shows up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony, we from Brazil, so talk about the fight with Haush last year and how you possibly see fighting him again, and how good it was coming to the PFL, hanging around with your buddy Zeferino. I know you guys trained in the past.
Yeah, man, Zeferino's like, he was my first jiu-jitsu coach actually,
I know,
from Brazil. Yeah, he was like my first one. Yeah, so like to see him again and be on the same cards with him. I got to train with him last season too when we were in the bubble, so it was cool to like do that again and feel his jiu-jitsu and his style. Diego Moraes now is my main coach. He's the one that helped me with my world title to get to Ben Henderson, so I brought him back. Haush, I think that fight was a very close fight. You know, he hit me in the nuts like twice early in the first round. Definitely took away a little bit of my cardio, but I feel like it was a very close fight. So I know where my skill level is at, and I know what I got to do to beat this guy, to beat him and Clay Collard actually. So, but nah, I mean, I'm not a hater, man. To see Haush be able to go from having a job to becoming a full-time fighter, I know how that feels. You know, it's an amazing feeling to be able to take care of your family from doing something you love to do. So big ups to him on winning his championship last year, but he's last year's champ, not this year's champ.
Anthony, you've been at the highest pinnacle of this sport in mixed martial arts. Been the WEC champion, UFC champion, and did you feel like you had to go through a humbling moment? Did you have any of those in your career up to this point now?
So many humbling moments, man. I think I've had the highest highs and the lowest lows in the sport. I've had a nine fight win streak coming from the WEC to the UFC. I had a 4 fight to get that title, and then 4 fights losing streak right after the title, going down to 145 pounds, fighting Oliveira, Holloway. I mean, I fought some killers in this sport, man. And that's one thing I'll say about my career is like, I always pick the toughest fight. I never try to get a warm-up fight. I never try to like let me get back into feeling myself. Even after I lost to Ferguson, I called out Wonderboy, and the Wonderboy was top 3 at that time in 170 pounds. So I almost fought Anderson Silva at 185. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff that happened in my career, man. So yeah, I think humbling moments, man. There's so many of them, honestly. Like from the injuries to the losses to losing training partners and coaches, you know, over the sport. Yeah, I dedicated my life to the sport, man.
You mentioned, you know, you fought just about everyone who's got a big name, and you know you've had some success in those names as well. Do you feel a lot of people, fans and media, think that your legacy is cemented? But you said winning this PFL title would cemented your legacy. You know, as winning in 3 different promotions.
Yeah, I mean, it's like for the quote I like to live by is like, if you make it to that spot, but staying there is the hard part, and that's what I'm trying to get back to, like staying at the top level of performance. And you know, based on last year, I wasn't there. You know, like seeing how I mentally came into those fights. You know, honestly, like last year was the first time I was like in the bubble. I was like, yo, I don't even want to be here. It was like too long of I felt like I was on house arrest or something. It was crazy. And then I got to go in the fight, and it was just a lot of like outside stuff that flogged my mental going into those fights. So for now, like going back to having an audience, this is my first time fighting in front of an audience in 3-4 years. It's crazy. Like I don't remember last time. Diego Ferreira was my last time fighting in front of a live audience, and I think that was almost 4 years ago. So it's crazy that you know I miss that part. I miss the fans. I miss this part. I miss you know, having access to my family and friends during fight week. So I'm excited just to go out there and feel how I used to feel.
And last for me, how does it feel as a big brother, laying down the foundation and you know, footprints for your younger brother, and seeing your success, and then he's following, and he's having the same success. You know,
Awesome,
it's 2 brothers. You know, 2 titles. How does that feel as a brother?
Yeah, bro. I knew how good Sergio was. I was Sergio's biggest supporter, and I used to always say, like, once Sergio understands how good he is, like, it's gonna be unstopping him. And then see him start the Bellator year the way he did, knockout, guillotine, and then you know the next fight he killed it. Like he looks like a killer right now. And earlier in his fight, he was kind of playing it safe, and he would point spar guys. And now he's out there, you know, trying to finish fights. So I think he's believing in his own sauce now, and I love it. I'm excited to see where he gets. He's only 28 years old. He still has a long time to progress.
Thank you.
Anthony, you've talked a lot about the Wonderboy fight a lot recently.
Yeah.
Would you say that that's one of the most important fights, you know, accolades aside, for your career at this point?
I would say it was like one of my toughest challenges, man. Like he was such a bigger fighter than me, and he was better at what I'm good at. His range style, his karate style. You know, I made a living off of that Taekwondo style, man. And the Showtime kid comes from Taekwondo, and to see what he's doing in there, it was just a challenge. But the best thing about that was the game plan that I had, and not many fans understand that. They saw a bloody nose, and like Pettis was getting his ass whooped. I was low kicking him so I can get his stance to lighten up. Once his stance went from here to here, that's when the knockout happened because he couldn't pull back. So the way it happened and like knowing that I followed that game plan and I didn't break it, that was like one of my best performances.
Absolutely. And 11 years ago, I believe only 2 fights you had in Texas, right?
Houston, I fought.
Jeremy
Stevens, I fought.
Jeremy Stevens, exactly.
Yeah.
11 years ago, you fought Jeremy Stevens. So how crazy is it for you guys to be in the same division again here in PFL with the opportunity you guys could face each other again?
Yeah, man. Honestly, like I'm not really like I want the losses. You know, like I want Clay and Halush. I really didn't think about Jeremy that much. If it happens, it happens. But like for me, I want to revenge what happened last season.
Did you watch that fight?
I did. Yeah, I made money on it too.
Anthony, last time we talked, it was
What's up, bro?
Eve. What's up, man? How are you?
Good.
Anthony, Pettis Fighting Championship, Lakeland, Florida. It was a great time. You had the promoter hat on. How does it feel to kind of put that hat just off to the side for a second, get that fight hat back on?
Oh, it's amazing, man. Like even watching those fights, it amps you up. I don't care what level it is now. Like even at NAFC, my little cousin fought Angelo Pettis, and watching him fight, it's like that heartbeat goes. And I was born to do this, man. This is what I was definitely born to be a fighter. And you know, seeing where I'm at now, having the management company, my own promo company. Texting my fighters that are fighting Friday night with me. We're all in this boat together. How much weight do you gotta cut? Like, it's cool.
And then, yeah, a lot of people this whole week, a lot of media about legacy. I've been hearing a lot about that. It's almost, I want to kind of go the opposite of it. Is like, but just forget about legacy. Let's forget about the future. We got Anthony Pettis 2022. Like, let's win this year. And like, you know, what do you think about a lot of the outside noises about like, oh, championship in multiple different, you know, organizations, all that? It's like, no, it's Pettis 2022.
I think last season I was thinking that too, man. And
Okay.
it fogs your vision up.
Right.
You know, like you got to get in there, win each minute of each round, and beat the guy in front of you. So you know, I'm pulling myself back. I'm hearing it. You know, I definitely that is my goal, obviously, to become a champion. But I need to win these next fights one round at a time. And I did the work, man. So I feel good. You know, my coach, Papa Theo over here, had me running every morning at 6 a.m. He wouldn't let me miss, bro, and it's showing.
Our guy Dean Toole, he kind of gives me a text every once in a while. He's like, "Hey, Anthony's really on this fight or on this football game. You're plus 170 under 2.5 rounds, minus 260. What we looking at? Friday night?"
I don't bet on myself, so I don't even look at that. Obviously,
okay.
no, I can't. So I don't know, man. You take your pick on that. Hopefully, you make some money.
Thank you, my man.
Anthony, one more for me. The judging hasn't been too kind for you here in the PFL, so is it important for you to go out there and get a finish and leave them out of it this time around?
I just can't have it that close, man, because like them fights were close. You know, like if I would have won that Halush fight, people would have been like, oh, Halush might have won that. Like vice versa. I heard it the other way around. So it's my job to make sure the judges aren't part of that, and if they are part of it, it's very clear who won the fight.
Anthony, how cool was it getting to reconnect with guys like Guida and Yair for this camp?
Oh, it was awesome, man. Like Guida, he's a strong fucking dude, bro. Like, it's still, I'm like, you're 40 years old, I'm trying to be like you. I think people forget I'm only 35, man, because I've been fighting so long. And these guys are 5 years older than me. Like Cowboy's he just turned 39 when we were training. The day we were sparring each other, it was his birthday. He turned 39 years old, so I'm like, man, it's crazy to see. Even like Tony Ferguson, he's up there. Like the generation that I was competing with are hitting their 40s, man. You're our favor. Like I was with him also, so yeah, I think being able to train with these guys again and just sharing just what we did together, man. We're kind of the pioneers of this thing.
And then you mentioned Jorge a lot. Is it safe to say that there's going to be a big kind of focus on your boxing in this fight?
I think Clay Collard, like I said, he made me a better fighter, man. He made me focus on my hands a lot. Like to see what he was doing in the boxing ring, and he brought that into MMA. It was like, yo, I have the kicks, I have these crazy jiu-jitsu. Let's focus on these hands, and I put a lot of work on these hands. And yeah, I can't thank my coach enough.
And Anthony, you've been posting a lot of boxing clips on your Instagram. Are you trying to throw your opponent off and not, show him too much of the kicks, or is that still going to happen in the fight?
Oh, it's still going to happen in the fight. Yeah, that's my bread and butter, man. I started Taekwondo when I was 5 years old, man. So I'm 30 years of Taekwondo training, so that won't go away. But I think understanding how to mix it with boxing is what I've accomplished this year.
People always ask children what they learn from their parents, but I'd like to ask what have you learned from your children this past couple of years?
My daughter's, man, like, I can't lie to her about anything, because fucking Google, like, she's like, what's this mean? I'm like, let me come up with the right answer. Yeah, but I think my daughter's the most honest person ever. She's like, in the last season, she was like, what were you doing? You look like trash out there. I'm like, yeah, I look like trash out there. Yeah. So she's definitely very honest, and she's a smart young girl, and it's motivation. And I just had a baby in my off season, and this is my first time that I actually, my first thought I was in training camps. I was moving back and forth. This time I got to sit there and see everything, from her standing up to the first, to her almost her first words, and the diapers, all of it. So it was cool.
So talking about fighting at 40, do you see yourself fighting at 40 years?
40 years old? I hope so. Yeah, I told everybody. I don't think I'll ever formally retire from mixed martial arts. Like, this is what I love to do. Like, I mean, if you guys can go make a couple $1 million to fight or do what you guys love to do, would you retire?
No,
right? Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna be around for a while.
Thank you.
Anthony, you said in an interview that you wanted to be less Showtime this time around. What does that mean?
I don't think I said less Showtime. I said I'm not gonna focus on being Showtime. So I think what I did in the first round, look at the collar fight. Like, when the exchanges happened, I was throwing cartwheel kicks. Like, that was a dumb way to I wasn't supposed to transition to that. I was trying to force a knockout, force Showtime. Where now, like, I understand how to make Showtime happen. Like the Showtime kick is the best example. 4.5 rounds of solid fundamentals led to that kick, not the kick first. So, and I forget that sometimes.
Your opponent, he says he's going to bring the pressure and put it on you. How do you plan to counter that?
They all say that, man. They all say it. So I mean, I'm used to it. I think if these opponents don't come and they're not 100%, when they fight Anthony Pettis, they bring their best. Like my coach said it in one of these interviews. He's like, from the Wheeze box to the championships, any guy fights bringing the best version of themselves. And this season, I'm ready for it. I hope he's the best version of himself, so he has no excuses.
And lastly, how did Benson Henderson survive that kick?
Man, I don't know, honestly. Like, it was clean on his chin. I just saw Ben, and it was the day of the 10-year anniversary of the Showtime kick. On that day, I saw him, so it was kind of weird. But another good guy, bro. He's about to be, I think he's almost 42. Like, to see these guys progress at this age and still doing it, it's motivating.